Well, good afternoon and welcome to Up and Close, and possibly a little personal as well with some of the region's leading retail leaders. This series is brought to you by the team at Images Retail Middle East. An absolute pleasure to be hosting this series with some of the biggest names in retail, not just here in the UAE, not just in the region, but globally at the moment. So, with high street closures, a daily reality, unfortunately, around the world at present in light of the rather crippling effects of COVID-19 and the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. It's only natural that one might ask oneself what the future holds for luxury retail, and specifically the luxury retail sector right here in the UAE. Well, I can tell you, our guest this afternoon, one man who will no doubt be at the very heart of that recovery, that renaissance, is Mr. Patrick Chalhoub, the CEO of the Dubai-based Chalhoub Group, one of the biggest retailers and retail groups here in the Middle East, and one that has really helped to set the sector and the region alight here in recent years. Over 750 retail outlets spread across numerous countries here in the region, whose brands don't get much more luxury than the likes of, well, Louis Vuitton, Christian Louboutin, Tony Birch, and many, many more. It is a warm welcome to one and only Mr. Patrick Chalhoub. Patrick, thank you first and foremost for being with us.
Thank you, Tom. I mean, now you raise the bar so high that I wish I knew the future. We are all being tested and testing and trying to do our utmost in order to succeed, to go through this unprecedented crisis into the best possible manner, and working all together in order to be able to do it. But that's life.
I think you've just hit on my sort of first question to you. I mean, in such uncertain times that none of us have known during our lives, I mean, your experience is like gold dust. It is paramount to so many. And I wanted to ask you about the challenging landscape that you found yourself in, possibly the most challenging landscape that you found during your extraordinary career. What lies at the heart of your business moving forward in this challenging landscape?
I mean, I would say what lies in our business in general, not only into the challenging landscape, is people. We are first and foremost, even if our mission is on luxury retail into the Middle East, it's all about the people. And what we have learned through time, your successes, your challenges, which have to meet, is really around the people and how you do it. I mean, our group have gone through several crises. Each one is totally different. Each one is unexpected, be it civil war in Lebanon, be it Iraqi invasion or Kuwait, be it the recent crisis which has with COVID-19. The only common element which I would say in order to face those crises is how much you have people who can be able to act diligently, to react, to rethink themselves and to move forward. So really the heart of our business is all about people. Then obviously you need to have a clear vision, and the clear vision is your cap on long term. So you go through waves, you go through the mountains, etc. But you have to maintain the cap, sometimes to reassess perhaps, but then it's changing strategy, is adapting yourself. And again, our vision is clearly of being an hybrid retailers which bring luxury experiences at the footprint of every customer in the Middle East and anywhere into the world. And the cap have not changed. So now we have to adapt to situation like the one of COVID-19 and making sure that we can manage those crises again with speed, with agility, which means empowerment to our team, with collaboration. And we have seen during this crisis an amount of collaboration, not only within our group, I would say, but even with our fellow other retailers, with our suppliers, with our service providers, with government, an amount of collaboration. I wish that in normal time we have this kind of amount of collaboration, and there is a lot of learning on doing it. Why, if we can do it during those difficult times, we cannot also do it during good time in order to maximize the opportunity which are being there. And the last point I would say, to face it, we had started a transformation of our group. We called it in the beginning a digital transformation of the group, a little bit over 900 days, because we had fixed ourselves 900 days to achieve it, and 900 days ended up end of June. And the transformation, the digital transformation, ended up of being a larger transformation in order to adapt to a changing environment. COVID-19 has just accelerated this transformation. And in March, I mean, before COVID, we were asking ourselves, we need to extend the period after June. It's taking a longer time. And some of the elements which we couldn't meet, all of a sudden, because we needed to react to this situation, has really accelerated. But thanks God that we had put the foundation in place. So with those foundation which has been put in place, it's true that this time, thanks to COVID, also I wish we could have done it without COVID, we have been able to really accelerate like never before we have seen, but in a very tough situation. So without having all the resources, financial resources, I'm speaking, which would have in every time. And here I'm speaking about being able to work remotely, digitally, e-commerce capabilities, supply chain, all the elements which helped us to go through this crisis. Thanks God we had some foundation there, so we just accelerated it.
I wanted to ask you about the people, if you can. I mean, you've always inspired not just your people, those closest to you, those that work with you, but so many within the sector here in the region and further afield. Again, in terms of the challenges that you could set your people to look to the future. Again, I use this word uncertainty. I don't like to come across as pessimistic, but given the uncertainties, given we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next week, how do you go about inspiring and challenging your people and the industry as a whole to change their mindset, to create a more forward-thinking, infinite mindset looking to the future?
So, again, I would say basically the work we have to do is really focus on how we do it the best. The rest is the conclusion, what happened to the industry, the comparison, if we are inspiring for other or not, is only the conclusion of the work which we can do internally. For me, there is few things. One, we have to be extremely clear about the vision which we put in place, extremely clear, in order to make sure that the people are clear about where they are heading to. But it's not enough. We need also to have clear purpose, especially today with our people, with a younger generation who needs to believe in what you are doing, not only in what you are doing and why you are doing it, but also on how we are doing it. So we have to be absolutely purpose-driven, apart having our clear vision of what we want to do to make it happen. And then, but this is perhaps what I said is more a generality. For us, it's really making sure that our leaders, and you lead by example, so it is true for myself and for our leaders, are really acting as servant leaders. So mainly supporting, mentoring, coaching their teams, rather than, I would say, trying to impose on them. If we want to make sure that we have people who are inspired, challenged, we have talent, and they want to move forward, we absolutely need to make sure that we are there to support them and to coach them, but also to empower them totally. They need to be empowered, and we have to accept that if they are empowered, they will do a lot of things better than the way their leaders would have done it. They would do few things much less good, and we have to accept that there is a certain amount of failure. The most important every time is to learn from what we have done, success or failures. And this will give confidence to the people in order to be able to manage. Then we have to be absolutely transparent. And when I say transparent, it's not about only making sure that they have a view about what's happening, but also having sometimes difficult conversation with them, what goes wrong, right, what goes wrong. I would say if we are very demanding, without imposing, but very demanding, people learn a lot. If you are just accepting everything the way it is, they will go nowhere, and at the same time they will never know. And for me, very simply, we have to make sure, be it as an activity, but also that our people and ourselves, what is the added value which we give every time? How are we making sure that we give value to the job we have, to our people, to our work, and every time reassess it and reassess it again. So having said that, I am blessed to have very passionate people around us, and we have to keep the flame on when you have such passionate and committed people. Obviously, you need also to make sure that you compensate well the people, but also that, as I said it, if they don't do something, understand what has happened and take time to reflect very clearly.
You mentioned a little earlier, you alluded to the fact that you put a number of processes in place pre-COVID-19 that has helped you in many ways and seen acceleration of that. I'm assuming, and knowing you as I do, that technology has been part of that process. I'm wondering, I don't want you to give away too many trade secrets because obviously of competition, etc. But how are you going about leveraging the power of technology, specifically in the hands of the younger generations that you mentioned there, to build the business going forward and to create that all-important spirit of agility in the market?
So I would say pre-transformation. So when I speak about 900 days ago, we had a very centralized view of our information technology, of the way we would move into it. And we have those gurus who seems to know it all, and probably they know a lot of things, who were somehow trying to give us those boxes and those technology in order to do it. But as all of us, we have our limitation, we have our views, and things are going so fast that somehow they became a lot of bottlenecks and didn't give us perspective. When we started our transformation 900 days ago, at that time, we really have been empowering our teams to say, you have freedom of execution, go ahead, learn, make mistakes, move ahead, use whatever you feel as the best technology, and use our gurus more to advise you, but take the decision yourself. And we went through a period where probably we made different kind of mistakes, which are done with people who are not experienced, but we experimented a lot. So we really have been able to open up a lot. At the time we opened also our greenhouse, and we have been able to attract certain startups in retail tech from all over the world, trying to accelerate them, learn from them, move ahead into it. But it gave us a lot of perspective. Inconvenience, it was quite costly. Inconvenience, it was sometimes amateuristic, but we browsed quite a lot. Pre-COVID, I mean, we felt that it is time, after decentralizing all of it, to re-centralize it, but in a, we call it in a helix way, so that to make sure that we have those tech gurus who are totally there, and we have the business leaders who are totally there, and that they are working together to make it happen. And it has been a conjugation of making sure that we access all those startups. We speak a lot about fintech. We don't speak a lot about retail tech. There is so much happening in our industry. So at the same time, access to what the best had to offer, and perhaps over-dimension sometimes to us, or not relevant, or taking too much time, and what really we had as a startup mentality in order to have. So we really opened up with a little bit this mix of both. I would say that during this COVID period, at least we had the mindset to say, let us find solution. Yeah. So we were very much solution driven rather than tech driven, etc. And sometimes we didn't have the best of the technology, but so what if it delivers? Sometimes we needed to look at the price, sometimes of the efficiency, and sometimes we had the best of the best, but we couldn't necessarily use it. but still a lot into the learning, and I think it will keep evolving extremely and very much. But it's a huge areas, and definitely without giving any secret, a lot of our organization will have to invest more and more on tech in general.
And again, I suppose a follow-up question to that. I mean, given your position and given your experience as being one of the leaders and one of the leading groups in luxury retail and retail as a whole for so many years here in the region, given this new race that we're all in, the race of innovation, do you feel confident that you have the tools in place at the moment to stay ahead of that innovation race in line of the other players in the market at the moment?
I mean, today, with the size of our organization, we have been looking quite a lot of organization of the same size.
Yeah.
And in fact, the organization of our size or the same size are slow and heavy and too much perhaps process oriented. So when we started our transformation, we said we really have to go back to one of our main value as a group, to be really entrepreneurs, to make sure that we are also quick and agile in doing the things and not only having the size which we have. So by putting the greenhouse, which is not only an accelerator platform, which is also an incubator platform, be it for retail tech, as I was mentioning it, but be it also to develop beauty makers, fashion makers, a lot of different initiatives, startup, really giving back to the people, we can do it, let us look, there is no small or big, there is what has potential. So we needed to transform somehow a mentality which often happen in a larger organization where you become too heavy and too processed, to deprocess instead of processing, and really rely on what counts the most, our people, and trust them and making sure that it happens. So I would say that today, if we stayed into the glory of we are one of the leaders or whatever, etc., I think we could enter into the age of dinosaurs, which I don't want to enter. So it's very good to have the size, etc., but this entrepreneurial spirit, young spirit, and guess what? It's also a very big attraction for our talent and for the newcomers, because they are people who want to see that they impact in what they do, they impact the world, they have a purpose, but they have an impactful part of it. So I feel much more comforted today of saying, yes, we have teams who are empowered, responsible, entrepreneurs, and moving ahead, but there is a lot to do. There is a lot to do still into our world. And when we speak about innovation, it's not only new product, it's new techniques, thinking out of the box. I mean, we have seen usually to develop one e-commerce site, it takes us 9, 10, 12 months. We developed 15 in 1 month. To connect with our customer, I would say it's so complicated. Or to make a visual, people were making videos in their bathrooms, and it was working extremely well. So this is the mindset we want to keep.
I want you to give us your sort of insights into the market in which we all find ourselves at the moment. Let's look forward again, so we can look into the crystal ball once again. We've all waking up to these doomsday predictions at the end of bricks and mortar, etc., and everything's going to go online. It's all going to be about e-commerce, etc. What does Patrice Chalhoub think will shape the new frontiers for retail moving forward post-COVID?
I would say it will be breaking the frontiers like we have all done. I hate this idea of thinking by channel. Is it either brick and mortars or digital or e-commerce, etc.? I think that we all, and again, COVID have accelerated, become extremely hybrid, which was exactly what I was thinking is the vision of our group. So for me, I don't care if e-com is 3% of my turnover like it was a year ago, 20% like it is, or 80%. I have to offer the same experience, delight my customer, making sure that I connect with him digitally, physically do the best what I have to do and do it with giving something more to my customer. Thinking digital, not digital. So I really removed this frontier of what is. Then we have to assess, is our e-site working or not? If it's not working, why it's not working? What can we improve? How can we get the best of it, of our data, of our people, etc. But the same thing in the brick and mortars. So the same question. Now, if I see how the market is being shaped, I would say, and I'm speaking luxury in the Middle East, I'm seeing perhaps lesser footprint of stores which are of a certain size or branded stores, really offering experiences, services, but also the human touch, delighting their customers. So lesser which are offering more. And I would say some concept stores which will be in community malls, which will exist because people will try and browse and get advice, and a lot which will happening as well digitally, either for convenience reason or also because of having a fantastic service and delighting the customer digitally. I would see definitely a much more transparency, be it in terms of pricing, what's happening elsewhere, etc. But also the necessity of this human touch, which will be great. Definitely, we are going to a market where prices, discounts, sales will be more present, but also to a market where you need to offer something different. We need to offer something more. We need to offer something which put our footprint into the table. So I think it will be a much better world into the future, much more convenient, much more adaptable to our customer, and it will keep on evolving. I mean, imagine when we will have this augmented reality much more, this 5G and triple dimension, which will be much more. But we have seen through COVID how much we have been able to do, but also after COVID, how much the human touch is so important. I mean, just by seeing you is much better experience than not seeing you. But if I could also feel and touch it then. So I think it will be a very hybrid world, and it's on both sides. Huh? We have in our stores to use much more digital data, information. I mean, I have to know my customer in the store, not only through the digital device, and I have to give the same human touch even on digital. So seamless experience, which will continue developing and improving. Customer at the center more than anything else. Really, the customer will be at the center of everything which we do and which we develop.
Well, it's very nice to see you as well, Patrick, as well. I can quantify that one this afternoon, right? I promised our viewers one last one. I promised it was going to be up and close, that's for sure, with what we've been doing. So it might get a little personal as well. And I wanted just to touch on that human touch to finish things up as we dig a bit deeper into the character there is, Mr. Patrick Chalhoub, and what's made you and your group such a success down the years. And one element that seems to jump out, and especially during this conversation, is your empathy for your colleagues, for what they're thinking, your empathy for your customers, for your brands that entrust so much to you, for the stores and for those that manage the stores as well. How do you go about cultivating that empathy and understanding, the power of empathy for so many?
I mean, first I would say we have to remain ourselves. We need to express what we have in our heart into the reality of it. A lot of people are trying, and probably I have been into this phase in my life, to impress, to show things which they are not. So it has to be really deep from your inside. Two, which I genuinely believe, we need to make sure that we have interest in what others have to give us. Yes. To be good listeners to what they have, to their challenges, to their concerns, to the opportunity. So I mean, I hate this arrogant part of people who thinks, I am 10 level more better than whatever, and so I know much more than him. It's not true. There is areas which we know where there's no. So if you think that the people with whom you connect, you feel have something to give, apart their emotion, their expression, etc., but also their expertise, their knowledge, their heart. I think it makes things totally change about it. So really staying very down to earth, listening, but also expressing ourselves, point of view, conviction, reality about what we have. Then it goes back of, do we feel what the others are feeling, and do they feel what we feel? And this has to go further than just a transactional relation, which for me goes back to how retail could develop, and but it goes back to our life. So making sure that we have a relation which is built on humanity, on connecting, on feeling, at the same time that very professional, very disciplined, and very true to ourselves.
Listen, I can guarantee that I've been listening intently to every word that you say. I'm sure all of our viewers have as well. We could listen for a lot longer, but we know that you are one of the businessmen in the business. We won't keep you any longer. I just want to say on behalf of everybody who's tuned in for that invaluable advice and insight into what is an uncertain sector and uncertain world at the moment. We can't thank you enough for your time this afternoon. We thank you for joining us for Up and Close with the region's leading retail leaders, brought to you by Images Retail Middle East. And we thank you, Mr. Patrick Chalhoub, for all that you've done before COVID, during COVID, and I'm sure for many years after COVID as well. Patrick, it's always great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to all the team of RetailME. I mean, you have been always extremely present and helping to shape this market of retail.
Lovely to catch up with you. That was our very special guest, Mr. Patrick Chalhoub, our special guest on this edition of Up and Close, brought to you by Images Retail Middle East. Make sure you tune in for more next time. Details will be sent your way on social media. Till then, enjoy. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.